Hello beautiful people, welcome back to the channel. Pots and Petals here, everything garden and allotment related. Ignore the tired face this morning, I haven't yet had a cup of coffee, so that is something we must do before we crack on with any work. I know yesterday was quite polyhouse heavy, so we're going to be in the garden today. I've got the paths which I'd like to mow and get them cut down before winter. I did forget to charge my strimmer, so we'll get the bulk of it done today and we'll just have to come in and trim the paths next weekend. And then I've got a few beds as well that we need to tidy up ready for winter, so we'll get those jobs done today as well. And I'm sure there'll be some other little bits and bobs that we can do whilst we're down here on the plot. But before we do anything, like I say, let's go and make a nice cup of coffee and wake ourselves up a little bit. Come on. Better. If you're wondering why this eye, you might not be able to see it so much on here, but I managed to get some wood in it during the week. We did get it out, but it's been weeping quite a bit since, so in case you're wondering why eye is a little bit puffy, that's why. But we'll finish this and then we'll go and crack on. You might remember I've got the two compost bins here, but on the left hand side I do have a wasp's nest. Now come autumn winter you'll find that the wasps will slowly die off and the queen in there will find a new home anyway. They're not going to use the same nest over and over again, so I do know that they will disappear, and once I know that they've gone I'll give these piles a real good turnover. Now in front of here is meant to be a nice bark chipped area just so that I can get in and out of the compost area quite well. However, it's covered in weeds at the moment, so we need to give this a real nice tidy up. So come on, let's get in there and see what we can remove. Ta-da! There we go. You can actually see the compost heaps now, and I did have to dodge a few wasps, but that's looking a lot tidier. Now I'm going to leave underneath the apple tree, all the calendula are going to seed, and we've got a few other little plants in there as well, so we'll give that a little bit longer before we give that a tidy up. So there's still lots of calendula still to flower in here, so I'm going to leave that. And we've also got some foxgloves, some borage, and also some poached eggplants which have started to self-seed. So I won't bother giving this a good dig over just yet. We'll give it another month or so, just until some of those bits start properly dying back. So I found this, you excuse my fingers, I had a pen explode on me, but this I believe is a walnut. Now we've got quite a few of these trees, but a lot of them are diseased and don't produce the actual nuts, so I'm quite surprised to see this. So I'll take this home and see if we actually have a walnut inside. have spotted these two big plump strawberries down here. So it's October the 1st, and I think these are the biggest strawberries I've ever had this time of year. So these are ever-bearing, so that just means that as long as the temperatures are warm, they will keep providing you with fruit. I didn't actually realise that's what these are. So yeah, we've got quite a few fruits to come, and I think we've got one that's already ripe. Look at him, and he hasn't even been had by the slugs or the snails. I thought I'd better come and check on the pine berries, and look, we've already got quite a few on here as well, so we'll give these a harvest and see how many we can take home. Not a bad pine berry harvest for October. I mean, there's still loads on the plant that just need to ripen up a little bit, so I'll be keeping a close eye on these over the next couple of weeks. In here we have got the squash and the climbing beans, and we also had some leeks over the summer, but I haven't really touched this bed and the weeds are now starting to go a little bit mad, so we need to get in here and give it a good clear up. A lot of the squash foliage can be chopped back now, and there's a few squash plants in there that I know haven't done too well, so we'll get those up. Also, the climbing beans, we get quite wet winters here, so I'm thinking about taking them off the plants so that I can dry them inside the shed. I mean, the beans aren't going to get any bigger now, it is just a point of the pod starting to dry out. There's a few nasturtiums that are still flowering, but to be fair, I just want to give this all a real good tidy up. Let's get in there and see what we find. There we go, looking a lot neater and tidier. So we've cleared away all those squash plants, and I've also cleared away the yellow runner beans. I can't remember the name, but I am just going to leave this TP in on the left hand side just to allow them to dry out a little bit more. And I haven't quite finished that bed on the far left next to the fruit cage, so that's a job for next weekend. And whilst tidying it up, I thought I might as well harvest those squash because they're not going to get any bigger, they just need to ripen. So let's have a closer look. I'm actually quite chuffed with this harvest. So it's not the best year ever, but I didn't think I'd be getting this many. But we're going to go through the 4 different varieties that I've got here. So we're going to start off with the little white ones, and these are your roast or mashed potato squash. And I found you can harvest these throughout the summer, but if you want, you can leave them on the plant and they will develop that hard skin, and you can then store those a little bit longer. I have tried roasting them already and they are absolutely beautiful. I think if you were to mash them, I wouldn't add any milk because they do seem to be a little bit more watery than potato. But I will definitely be growing these again next year. Next up, we've got the orange ones. So these are Uchiki curry, and they turn this really deep orange when they're ready to harvest. They seem to ripen a lot quicker than any of the other winter squash, which might have something to do with the fact that they come from Japan and they have very harsh winters there. I find these squash are great in both savoury and sweet dishes, so soups, but also a really nice pumpkin pie. Next we've got the large green ones, so we've only got 2 of these, but these I believe are Maria di Chogia, and they're a first for me, so I've never grown these before, so I'm looking forward to seeing what dishes they best suit. I'll try it in a few soups and stews and a couple of sweet dishes as well, and I'll let you know how I get on. Then finally we have got the butternut squash, and this is called Butterfly. So you'll notice a couple of them are still a little bit green, but they weren't going to get any bigger, so they'll be fine just to ripen off. With my butternut squash, I do like these in a soup, and I find they're great with curry powder and coriander seeds. That's probably my favourite go-to soup over the winter. So I'm just going to give these a little freshen up with a clean damp cloth. You don't want to get them too wet, and then I am just going to leave them in the poly house just for a few weeks so that they can ripen off a little bit more. When it comes to storing these, a lot of people do give them a wipe with some bleach before they put them into storage. One little tip when you are cutting your squash or pumpkins off the vine, don't cut it here. You want to leave some of the vine on either side, so we'll take it off here and we'll make a cut there as well. So you want to leave this little handle, but don't pick it up by there. Always pick it up by the actual squash itself, because you do not want to damage this part of the plant. The problem is if you damage this and air can get inside to the actual fruit, it could start rotting away on the inside before the outside. So the only way you would know is once you've cut it open. So do go careful when you're harvesting your pumpkins or your squash. They're very precious. We had a little self-seeded cosmos here, and I don't know what colour it's going to be, but I'm hoping that this is going to bloom before we get any of the first frosts. It has got another month or so. I think these two patty pans are big enough to come home now, so I've actually given a lot of these away, the ones that I have harvested, which haven't been many, but I think I'm actually going to try and cook something with these. I'm thinking about stuffing them, but if anyone's got any other good recipes for a patty pan, please let me know in the comments. Whilst checking out the patty pans, I've noticed that a lot of this green manure is starting to flower and seed again, so I think I'm going to give it its final chop down right to the ground. What you want to do is you just want to leave all of that debris to lay on top of the soil, and that's going to protect it over the winter from the sharp frosts, but also the heavy rains that we can get. Leaving all of that green to rot down into the soil is going to help improve the soil structure itself, but also add all of those nutrients back in, and the worms should also help by pulling it back into the soil. So we're just going to chop this right down to the ground and just leave it there on top. I'm really chuffed with the rose cuttings, so 3 out of the 4 here have taken really nicely, and they've already started to grow a really nice root system on the bottom. So I'll go home, do a little bit of research just to find out whether it's better to do this in the autumn or wait until the spring. I'm just conscious that those roots are really starting to form out the bottom there, and I want to give these the best chance possible. A lot of the dogwood that has started to take, you can see all of that new growth starting to come from those nodules, so we'll give these a little bit longer because a few of them haven't shown any new growth, but it just might be a little bit of time before they start popping. So we'll keep these in the poly house over the winter just to keep them nice and snug. Now the rosemary, it doesn't look dead, so that's one thing, but I can't see any new shoots on there just yet. So again, we'll keep them in here, and hopefully over winter they should put some roots on. Actually, checking out the bottom, there is some root growth going on in there. So although they don't seem to be shooting, always check the bottom because you might actually have some roots before you have any new shoots. So that's all we've got time for today, folks. We got that surprise squash harvest, so they're now in the poly house and they will just ripen off for the next couple of weeks. You want to take them home as soon as we start getting the frost, so a couple of weeks before that. I didn't manage to get round to doing the pass today, but to be fair, I didn't charge up my strimmer and I'd rather do the job all in one. So that'll be a job for next weekend, and we did clear those beds, so I have had quite a productive weekend down here. I'll be back again next weekend, and it's going to be the October plot tour soon. I don't think it's next weekend, it's probably the weekend after that. So we've got that to come, and also some bits and pieces that we can get into the ground throughout October. So keep an eye out for those videos, but like I say, I'll be back next weekend. So in the meantime, guys, I hope you have a really nice week ahead of you, and I'll see you all very soon. So take care, guys. See you later. Bye bye.